The afternoon I finally decided to leave Elena's house, she was standing there, leaning casually against the doorframe of the bedroom. She watched me packing my things with a faint smile playing on her lips, though the expression didn't reach her eyes, leaving them cold and detached. "What?" she asked, her voice carrying a tone of mockery. "Have you finally realized that having a child wasn't enough to trap me into a marriage with you? So you've decided he's useless to you now? You're just leaving, and you aren't even planning to fight to take him with you." Before I could formulate an answer to her accusations, Leo, who must have been eavesdropping outside the door for quite some time, walked into the room. He approached me and carefully poured the coins from his plastic piggy bank into my cupped hands. "Dad, you have to take good care of yourself," he said, his voice surprisingly steady for a 6-year-old. "Also, can you please promise me that you will absolutely never come back? Uncle Julian told me that only if you leave completely will he be willing to be my real dad." After Leo finished speaking, he blinked his dark, wet eyes at me, his face overflowing with an innocent, cruel anticipation. Elena lowered her voice, a warning tone creeping into her speech. "Leo, is that how school taught you to speak to your father?" Leo lowered his head, pouting slightly as he kicked at the carpet. "But Mom, last time Uncle Julian asked if you were in love with Dad, you said you didn't love him either. And I don't really like him that much anyway. If Dad wants to go, just let him go." I had long since stopped feeling hurt by his words. A week ago, it had been his 6th birthday. He had thrown a massive tantrum demanding to spend the day with Elena and Julian instead of me. Suddenly, in that moment, I just stopped caring. I didn't feel that desperate, clawing fear of loss anymore. I didn't have a single thought of trying to stop them or change their minds. Even that evening, when I had walked past a restaurant and heard him introducing Julian to the violinist as his father, my heart remained completely flat, devoid of reaction. Because I was packing, I was currently crouching down on the floor. My line of sight was perfectly level with little Leo. I accepted his money, closing my hand around the coins, and nodded slightly. "Okay," I said quietly. "I promise you." I didn't refer to myself as Dad anymore. I looked him in the eye and spoke with calm finality. "I won't return to this house, and I won't be your dad anymore. Leo, you're free." He seemed surprised that I agreed to his terms so easily. He stared at me, stunned into silence for 2 seconds. Then he started laughing. "Yay, from now on, Uncle Julian is my dad." He turned and ran out of the room, shouting down the hallway that he needed to call Julian to tell him the good news. I packed the last article of clothing into the suitcase. I zipped it shut and stood up. Elena had been silent since Leo's interruption, but as I brushed past her to leave the room, she reached out and grabbed my arm. Her eyes were half-lidded, her emotions unreadable. "Mark, just because I don't love you doesn't mean I hate you. Over these years, I've gotten used to having you around. What exactly is this tantrum about? Why do you insist on leaving?" By the end of her sentence, her voice was tinged with a shallow irritation, as if I were inconveniencing her routine. I wanted to say something, to explain the years of neglect, but it felt superfluous and pretentious to even try. So I just pulled my arm back from her grip and said, "Take good care of Leo." I dragged my suitcase out of the residence without looking back. Leaving the villa estate required a long walk to the main road. The weather wasn't on my side. The cold wind swept fallen leaves from the roadside onto me, stinging my face. It felt easy to look pathetic in a situation like this, walking alone in the wind with a suitcase. But still, I didn't look back once. I had rented a modest apartment in advance and had already secured a job. Falling back on my old college major, I had applied to be an instructor at a children's art studio. On my first day of work, I walked into the main office and saw several male teachers squatting in front of a little boy. Ben, does your aunt like desserts? One teacher asked. And, what type of guys does she usually like? Asked another. By the way, Ben, baby, is she coming to pick you up tonight? The boy stood there, completely expressionless. Teachers, didn't you call me over to discuss issues with my drawing style? The teachers looked at each other in embarrassment, realizing they had been caught in their sycophancy. Since there's no issue with my art, I'll go back to the classroom, the boy said. He turned around and saw me standing there. He greeted me faintly. Hello, teacher. Then he walked away without looking sideways, carrying himself with a maturity beyond his years. The other teachers were very friendly to me as the newcomer. After explaining the workflow and the schedule, they started chatting about the boy again. You don't know, right? That kid's aunt is Sarah Lynn. She and Elena Booth are known as the city's most valuable single socialites. Oh wait, that's not right. I heard Elena is already with her one that got away, Julian Song, who just got back from overseas. Now it's just Sarah left. Hearing Elena's name again, I was as calm as if I didn't know her at all. But Sarah... I sighed silently. She was Elena's sworn enemy. She used to despise me by association. Every time we met at social functions, without exception, I'd be the target of her sarcasm. Pretty spineless, huh? Elena and Julian's kissing photos are trending online, and you don't dare say a word? What do you get out of following Elena around like a puppy? A title? Status? Mark, can't you just look at someone else for once? I decided I'd better stay away from the boy named Ben. If Sarah found out I was working here, she might pull strings to get the studio to fire me just out of spite. Elena called me while I was squeezing onto the subway after work during the rush hour. Hello? I answered. The noise of the commute on my end made her pause. A few seconds later she asked, Where are you? On the subway. She gave a barely audible laugh. The subway? Mark, you brought this on yourself. I held onto the handrail as the train swayed and just asked, Did you need something? The sound of a woman's high heels clicking against a floor, even through the electronic distortion, sounded unhurried and commanding. Just like her. I could even imagine her walking from her executive desk to the floor-to-ceiling window. Leo has a fever, she said. Give me your address. I'll come pick you up. No need, I lowered my eyes, watching the floor of the train car. The Booth family has plenty of staff to take good care of him. He doesn't need me. Elena's voice dropped slightly, becoming sharper. You really plan on abandoning him, Mark? She seemed to find the idea absurd. Just because he said he likes Julian more? Elena never seemed to understand my feelings for Leo. Even though I had explained countless times that the night she got pregnant was an accident and not my intention, she never believed me. Because I had liked her for several years before that, she decided I had trapped her into marriage by intentionally getting her pregnant with Leo. In her view, my feelings for Leo weren't deep parental love. She thought I saw him as a tool or a bargaining chip to stay in her world. So she didn't know that because I was afraid Leo liked Julian more and more, I had gone through countless nights of mental breakdowns and severe anxiety. The subway reached the hub station. The car instantly emptied out by half as people rushed to transfer. That's not it, Elena. I found a seat, giving my sore legs a momentary break. I said softly into the phone, It's because he really does like Julian more. And I don't want to force myself to bend over backwards trying to please him anymore. Elena wanted to say something else, but the next second, Leo's voice appeared in the receiver, confirming my words. Mommy, my fever is gone. Can I go play with Uncle Julian tomorrow? Elena's breath hitched audibly. Mark, listen to me. I hung up. I got off at the next stop and pushed that call out of my mind. Back at the villa, Leo paused when he heard the name Dad mentioned. He stopped obsessing over Julian for a moment. Instead, he tugged at the hem of Elena's dress and asked, Mommy, Was that Dad on the phone?" Elena nodded slightly. "Oh, did you tell Dad I was sick? Is he coming back to see me?" Elena met those cute round eyes. Eventually, she gave a hum of affirmation. Leo had expected Mark to be worried about him and unable to resist coming home. "Then I'll go put on a mask so I don't get Dad sick. I'll go play with Uncle Julian later." It had been a week. He didn't seem so resistant to seeing his dad anymore. Elena pressed her lips together tightly. "Dad is working overtime," she lied. "I told him not to come back." Leo still had a fever patch on his forehead. He blinked upon hearing this. Then going to find Uncle Julian first is okay too." He didn't seem very disappointed. After all, in his mind, Dad would definitely come back to see him eventually. Ever since he was little, whenever he got sick, Dad was the most nervous one in the house. It was just a little unexpected that he wasn't here. After all, in the past, even if Dad was abroad, he would fly back overnight if he heard Leo was sick. I had been working for a week and had basically adapted to the rhythm of the studio. Although Sarah hadn't come by once, I remained cautious. Just in case, whenever parents came to the studio entrance to pick up their kids, I preferred to hide in the back office and grade drawings. There was only one time Ben took a sick day. I went out with my colleagues to see the students off because I didn't have to worry about running into Sarah. Usually I tried my best to treat everyone equally, but Ben still sensed a difference in my behavior. That day, Ben was obviously down. During the break in the hallway, he rested his chin in his hands, staring out the window. A few boys were chasing each other and accidentally knocked him over. They ran off without apologizing. I immediately went over and squatted in front of him. "How are you, Ben? Are you hurt? Let me see." The boy covered his knee, refusing to let me look, and turned his head away. "I won't trouble you. I'll borrow a Band-Aid from another teacher." I was stunned for a moment, then said gently, "I have one too. Why ask someone else?" "I don't want yours." The back of his head was round and radiated stubbornness. "I know you don't like me. You don't have to pretend to be nice." I was surprised. "I don't dislike you. You're well-behaved, polite, and talented at drawing. Why wouldn't I like you?" Ben shot me a quick glance. Then he turned his head back and muttered, "That day when Mrs. Lee asked you to see me out, you heard it was me and didn't want to. And a few days ago at lunch, I didn't want to eat with those other teachers, so I took my bowl and sat next to you, but you finished immediately and ran away." After speaking, he seemed to recall the scene vividly. His cheeks puffed up in anger, and he turned back to accuse me. "Nobody has ever hated me this much. If you don't like me, I don't want to like you either." I felt awkward. That day in the cafeteria, I thought I was being subtle. Ben had sat opposite me with his bowl. He didn't look at me, just mumbled, "They're too loud. They only ask about my aunt." I moved my tray to make room for him, but not 30 seconds later, Ben's smartwatch rang. It was Sarah calling. Instinctively guilty and afraid of being heard, I shoveled the rest of the rice into my mouth and bolted. I couldn't explain the history with his aunt, so I just looked at him earnestly. I said word by word, "Then I was wrong. From now on, I'll wait for you to eat together. And I'll walk you out after school too. But I really don't dislike you, Ben." The boy turned half his face toward me. His profile was chubby and soft. "Really?" "Really," I promised. He reached out both arms toward me, keeping a straight face. "Then carry me. My leg hurts." The scrape on his knee was visible. I picked him up and took him to the office to disinfect and bandage it. Then we went back to the classroom, and I made the boy who knocked him over apologize. Ben blinked at me and pressed his lips into a small smile. It was a signal that he was willing to make peace. During the lunch break, I looked through Ben's file again. My gaze froze on his birth date. Today was his birthday. Most likely his gloomy mood all day was related to this. I remembered the little rabbit pattern on his paintbrush bag and the rabbit keychain on his backpack. Before school ended, I speed crocheted a mini version of a lop-eared bunny doll using some yarn I had in the supply closet. The overalls it wore were similar to what Ben was wearing today. He finished the in-class assignment 10 minutes earlier than the other students. I called him out and gave him the doll. "Ben, happy birthday!" He stared for 2 seconds. "Is this Bunny me?" I smiled and nodded. "Just as cute as you." "Thank you, Teacher Mark. I like it very much." The little boy accepted it reservedly, his expression not changing much. "You're welcome. Go back to class." He took 2 steps, then turned back. "Squat down." He beckoned to me. I squatted down as told. "What is it? Did you want to say something else?" The next second, the boy's soft lips pressed against my cheek. "This is the first gift Ben received today, and it's the favorite." He clung to my side, his eyes unable to hide their brightness. "Teacher Mark, do you think my aunt is pretty? I can give you her phone number as a thank you gift for the bunny." The warmth rising in my heart instantly froze. No need." After learning that Sarah wasn't picking him up tonight, I agreed to walk Ben out. But at the studio entrance, when I saw the woman leaning against the sleek Maybach, I felt struck by lightning. "Auntie, why are you picking me up today?" The woman's gaze slowly moved from my face. She glanced at Ben. "Taking you to celebrate your birthday, kid." "Yay!" The boy jumped up and down. I braced myself and spoke. "Hello, Ben's guardian. What a surprise." She interrupted me, smiling sharply. "Elena is actually mistreating her man enough to make him come out and work." To prevent misunderstandings if she mentioned me to Elena next time, I took the initiative to explain. "I've already left the Booth family. My employment has nothing to do with Miss Booth." Sarah's gaze focused slightly. "Because of Julian? Did they bully you?" I didn't want to discuss this with Sarah, so I pretended not to hear. "If Miss Lynn has no questions regarding Ben, I'll return to the office." Ben cluelessly reached out his small hand and waved. "Bye, teacher." I waved back. "Bye." I turned to leave, but felt a gaze on my back that I couldn't ignore. 20 minutes later, I got off work. I came out of the studio and the Maybach was still parked at the entrance. The window rolled down. Sarah rested her hand on the steering wheel, turned her head, and said flatly, "The little guy is making a fuss, insisting you join him for his birthday." I looked at Ben in the back seat. He made a confused sound, tilting his head. "Auntie, didn't you say—" Sarah clicked her tongue, interrupting. "No parking allowed here. Get in first, talk later." Afraid the car would get a ticket because of my hesitation, I hurriedly got in. But when I saw the corner of Sarah's lips hook up in the rearview mirror, I realized belatedly. The car had been stopped here for a long time. If she was going to get a ticket, she would have gotten one by now. I wanted to find a chance to speak up and ask Sarah to drop me off at any intersection, but Ben hooked his arm through mine and nuzzled me. "This year it's not just me and Auntie for my birthday." The words stuck in my throat, unspoken. Throughout the meal, Ben was smiling, eyes curved into crescents, completely opposite to his mood in the morning. Maybe he burned too much energy from excitement. On the way home, he fell asleep leaning against me. The woman glanced at me in the rearview mirror. She spoke in a low voice. "His parents are constantly at the overseas branch. They aren't close to him and don't want to waste time coming back to see him. They even forgot it was his birthday." Sarah rarely dropped her cynical act. "Mark, thank you for giving him a gift and spending his birthday with him." The boy was sound asleep, making tiny snoring noises. I raised my hand and gently brushed his cheek. I whispered, I like Ben. I'm happy to hang out with him too. The car drove smoothly. For the second half of the trip, the cabin was so quiet you could hear the tires rolling over the pavement. I stared blankly at the neon lights flashing past the window. Suddenly, life felt so dramatic. Leo, whom I had loved with all my might for 6 years, didn't even want me to spend a birthday with him. While this little boy I'd known for only a month cherished the gift I gave him, saying it was his favorite. The car slowed down. My thoughts gradually returned. Sarah stopped downstairs at my apartment. I gently set Ben down and got out to say goodbye. Sarah got out too and called to me from behind. "Mark." I turned back. "Is there something else?" The woman's dark eyes were so deep they reflected no emotion. "Stop loving Elena. She's not good to you." I stood there stunned, not expecting her to say something like that. By the time I came back to my senses, the car had already driven off. I could only see the taillights fading into the distance. A beat later, I realized Sarah didn't hate me that much anymore. After that, it was almost always Sarah coming to pick up Ben. The other teachers noticed and fought over the task of seeing the students out, hoping to catch a glimpse of her. So I stayed in the office to grade art. One day after work, that familiar Maybach appeared at the entrance again. Looking through the window into the car, Ben wasn't there. Sarah must have dropped him off at home and come back. She got out and slammed the car door. Pressing her lips together, she stared at me resentfully. "Do you hate me that much? You don't want to see me?" I didn't know if it was an illusion. Was this tall, imposing woman in front of me pouting? I let out a slow, "Huh?" "These past few days, isn't it because I came to pick up Ben that you refused to come out?" I shook my head and explained the situation. "The rotation for seeing students out hasn't reached me these past few days." Sarah scoffed, as if saying, "Who'd believe that?" But soon she said with a cold face, "I've waited for you for so long. I haven't eaten anything. I'm starving." I looked at her blankly. "Why were you waiting for me?" "None of your business." She suddenly bristled. I felt like waiting. I got confused by her self-righteous tone and momentarily thought it was my fault. I hesitated and asked, "Then, how about I treat you to dinner?" Sarah turned smoothly and opened the passenger door for me. "Get in. The restaurant reservation is in half an hour. If we go now, we'll be just in time." The car stopped in front of the restaurant. Just as I was about to open the door, Leo's figure appeared in my line of sight. Flanking him were Elena and Julian. Leo was talking to a boy his age. The boy asked, "Leo, is this your dad? Wow, he's as handsome as a movie star." Leo's lips trembled as if he hadn't decided what to say. The boy tilted his head in confusion. "But I remember once the person who picked you up at school was an uncle who looked kinda tacky. Which one is actually your dad?" So that was the reason Leo kept stopping me from picking him up. At the booth house, I didn't go out much, so I didn't pay much attention to dressing up. I usually wore loungewear, which was quite plain. I only picked him up once because the driver was on leave. He sulked at me for a long time when we got back. Hearing this question, Leo suddenly grabbed Julian's hand. Of course this is my dad. That one last time was my family's driver uncle." By the end, his voice got smaller and smaller. Julian accepted the title, squatting down to smile and greet the boy. Elena frowned slightly, seeming like she wanted to say something, but she remained silent. A light chuckle sounded in my ear. Sarah narrowed her eyes. "Mark, you raised a little ungrateful brat." This scene was somewhat expected, but seeing it with my own eyes, I couldn't be completely calm. I withdrew my gaze and asked her softly, "Can we eat somewhere else?" "Sure, but wait a sec." Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt and got out. When she walked up to Elena and the other little boy had already left. What a coincidence, CEO Booth. Bringing your boyfriend and son for dinner? Elena looked cold. None of your business, Miss Lynn. Sarah's posture was relaxed. She didn't mind the remark. Don't be so tense, CEO Booth. I just wanted to congratulate you and Mr. Song on your approaching happy news. She smiled. By the way, I heard Mark has completely split from you guys. That's good too. Not only are you mother and son free, but so is he. He's only 27, still young. He'll marry someone more suitable for him in the future, and maybe have an even cuter child. He'll probably be happier than he was with you. Hearing my name, Leo looked up at her. Elena raised her chin slightly, her eyes scrutinizing. Sarah Lynn, what exactly are you trying to say? The atmosphere became tense. Sarah seemed oblivious. She looked down at Leo from above. Hey, kid, don't think you're the only one who didn't want your dad. He also doesn't want you anymore. Remember, he will never love you again. Sarah curled her lip sarcastically, then left to return to the car. Through the window, I saw Leo suddenly let go of Julian's hand. His expression was blank, confused. Sarah and I ended up eating wontons at the little shop downstairs from my apartment. I held my spoon. Thank you for today. Don't just give me empty words. Give me something real. My mind flashed through watches, cufflinks, a series of expensive possibilities. I asked without confidence, "What do you want?" She lifted her chin at me. Didn't get full. Give me a few wontons from your bowl. Really easy to satisfy. I spooned 3 chubby wontons into her bowl and said generously, "If it's not enough, you can order another bowl." It's enough. The glass door of the shop was pushed open and closed by coming and going customers, letting in wisps of the cold spring night wind. But melted by the steam and bustle, it wasn't so biting anymore. Until the end of winter break, I unknowingly ate quite a few meals with Sarah. Occasionally, Ben would join us. The night before Ben's school started, Sarah called me. The school suddenly notified us of a parent-teacher conference tomorrow, but I'm at a branch office out of town handling an emergency. I can't get away at all. Can you go to the school for me tomorrow? The elementary school Ben attended was the same one as Leo's. I couldn't help but hesitate. On the other end of the line, I could faintly hear an assistant urging her to start a meeting. I took a deep breath and agreed. It shouldn't be so coincidental that he's in the same class as Leo, right? Before sleeping, I suddenly remembered the conversation Leo had with that boy at the restaurant entrance. I opened the wardrobe, fingertips brushing past each piece of clothing. Then I stopped on a well-tailored white suit. I put away the heavy down jacket I had planned to wear the next day. The parent-teacher conference was before school let out in the afternoon. After lunch, I changed into polished leather shoes and made an appointment at a salon to style my hair. 2 hours later, I arrived at the school gate. There were 15 minutes left before the conference started. I called Ben. "I'm here. Which class are you in?" Teacher, I'll come out to get you. Wait for me." There were several students standing at the school gate, probably waiting for parents. Scanning the corner, I saw Leo. He saw me too, knitting his little brows as he ran up to me. "Dad, what are you doing here? I told Mom to let Uncle Julian come to my parent-teacher conference today. I told my classmates my dad is a dancer. Only Uncle Julian can dance." He waved both hands outward, annoyed. "Go back quickly, Dad. Don't let my classmates see you." "Teacher Mark," Ben waved at me from not far away. I looked up. "Coming." Leo looked at Ben, then at me. His expression became confused. "Dad, you—" I said, "I'm here for his parent-teacher conference." Leo froze. I thought about it and felt there was nothing more to explain. I silently walked around him toward Ben. "Ben, which class are you?" "Class 1. My smile faltered. Same class as Leo. This meant I would have to see Julian. Before entering the class, Ben and I coordinated our story. I claimed to be his younger uncle. I arrived relatively early. There weren't many parents in the classroom yet. Several kids gathered around. "Wow, Ben, your uncle is so handsome." I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Glad I didn't embarrass Ben. He didn't show any satisfaction. Instead, he sighed and mumbled, "Sigh, Teacher Mark. You're so handsome. My aunt deserves you even less now." No, he seems to have misunderstood something. Just as I wanted to explain, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Leo walk in alone. He looked at me quietly, then lowered his head and returned to his seat. The boy's chubby hands were stacked on the desk, face buried in his arms, a sign that he was upset. The meeting began. The homeroom teacher stood at the podium and asked Leo, "Leo, has your guardian arrived?" He stood up, his small body radiating loneliness. He subconsciously looked back at me. Ben happened to lean against me, showing me his test scores from last semester. My attention was diverted, and I praised him softly. Ben is the best at everything he does. When I looked up again, Leo had already turned back around. Head lowered, he didn't answer the teacher, his pale fingers picking at the edge of the desk. The teacher said helplessly, "I'll give your parents a call." Neither Elena nor Julian ever showed up. Throughout the whole process, Leo quietly buried his head in his notebook, drawing, as if isolated from it all. The meeting ended. I helped Ben pack his things and walked toward the school gate. On the way, I got a call from Sarah. "I'm at the school gate. Are you free, Mr. Mark? Let me treat you to a meal as thanks for your help." I asked, "Is the company business finished?" She gave a lazy hum. "I came straight here as soon as I got off the highway." Her laugh was mixed with subtle exhaustion. Ben came out, saw Sarah, and sprinted over to hug her leg. "Auntie!" The woman paused when she saw me. She cleared her throat, voice flat. "Look pretty handsome." I stared at her slightly flushed cheeks and took a step closer. Sarah was a bit uncomfortable. "What are you doing?" "Your face is a bit red," I observed her. "Are you sick from overwork? If you're not feeling well, we can skip dinner today." Sarah stared at me fixedly for 2 seconds. The red on her cheeks faded at a visible speed. She criticized me without emotion. "Mark, the blockhead, you talk too much. Get in the car." I was just preparing to get in when a familiar voice laced with tears came from behind. "Mommy! Did Dad really stop wanting Leo?" I turned around. Elena stood in the cold wind, watching me indifferently. Beside her was Leo, his eyes red-rimmed. Elena's gaze swept over the three of us, and she nodded. "He went to be someone else's stepdad. Mark, you've got some ambition." Ben stuck out a finger and wagged it. "Not my stepdad, but possibly my uncle." I looked back at Sarah in confusion. She leaned lazily against the car, smiling like a rogue. "I didn't say it. Why look at me?" Leo called out to me timidly. The relaxed atmosphere that had just risen was swept away. He looked at me eagerly. "Leo is sick. My throat hurts." Teardrops clung to his long lashes, cute enough to soften any heart. I said softly, "Mommy will take care of you." I paused, then added, "And Uncle Julian." "But I want Dad too." He let go of Elena's hand and trotted up to me. He grabbed one of my fingers ingratiatingly. Seeing I didn't push him away, he reached out as if to hug me. "Dad, feel Leo's forehead." I didn't compromise. I took a step back, creating distance. Leo's arms froze in mid-air. "Leo, the day I left, we made a deal. I'm not your dad anymore." Sarah casually examined his expression and laughed. "Kid, that day you said your dad was the driver uncle. He heard it. The boy's face went pale. The school gate was bustling with activity and laughter. Most parents were celebrating graduation or planning their children's futures. Only Leo and I looked at each other in tragic silence. That night back home, I received a call from Elena. "Are you with Sarah Lynn?" Not clearing up the misunderstanding might cause trouble for Sarah. "No," I said, "but that has nothing to do with you." After a long time, the voice on the other end suddenly said, "Julian and I were never together. He hadn't been back in the country long. He sought me out only to borrow my connections and resources. The photo on the hot search was a forced perspective. We didn't kiss." I had been with Elena for nearly 6 years. As Leo grew up, my relationship with Elena gradually thawed. She once drove 500 kilometers through a rainstorm just to come back and spend my birthday with me. She also tacitly allowed the company staff to call me Sir. But after Julian returned, their interactions became more frequent. Between her and me, there was only a cycle of suspicion, arguments, and Cold Wars. The day her kissing photo with Julian hit the trends, I asked her for an explanation. But Elena just hooked her lip and asked me back, "What is our relationship that I need to explain to you? You seem to be overstepping." So later, no matter how outrageous she and Julian got, I never asked again. Now that she was suddenly clarifying things to me, I just felt baffled. I said, "Whatever level you and Julian have reached has nothing to do with me. There's no need to tell me." Elena seemed to hear the lack of anger in my tone. Her voice became much hoarser. "Mark, come back. Let's get married, okay?" She sounded like she was mocking herself. "I fell in love with you long ago. I was just unwilling to admit it all this time." 2 scenes of regret playing out on the same day. I didn't know whether to marvel at how alike Elena and Leo were in these matters. I couldn't even muster up surprise. I tapped my temple with a headache and said, "Elena, why don't you ask me first if I still like you, if I'm still willing to marry you?" Elena froze. I told her frankly, "Whether it's you or Leo, I don't love either of you anymore." As soon as the words fell, a rustling sound came from the receiver. Elena's tone sounded a bit nervous. "Leo, how long have you been listening at the door?" I guessed Leo must have heard the content of the call. That day, I didn't see them again for several days. Just as I thought our paths wouldn't cross again, Elena brought Leo to the studio to sign up for painting classes. The studio director pushed Leo's drawing in front of me, looking amazed. "Extremely talented. Mark, teach him well. We can send him to a competition at the end of the year." I looked at his drawing and didn't speak. I used to ask Leo if he was interested in drawing, but he said it was too boring, not as interesting as Julian's dancing. "Uncle Julian can lift his legs so high. Dad, can you?" I awkwardly said I couldn't, and he looked disappointed. He shook his head and left, saying, "Dad, oh Dad, do you think Mommy won't marry you because you aren't good enough for her?" The director handed Leo over to me to take to the classroom. In the hallway, he gently tugged at my shirt. I turned back to meet his terrified smile. "Mommy said my good drawing is inherited from Dad," I corrected him. "Leo, don't call me Dad." The boy's smile slowly faded, fingers anxiously picking at his trouser seam. "Leo will be obedient from now on and learn to draw seriously. I won't disturb Dad outside of class." "Can I not even call you Dad, then?" His voice was light, trembling. "Then will I not have a dad anymore?" His eyes were red, but as if afraid I would be annoyed, he held back and dared not cry. I paused, squatted down, and patiently explained to him. "No, I mean you can't call me Dad during class. You have to be like the other kids and call me teacher." He sniffled and nodded vigorously. "Leo will remember." Leo was indeed very talented. In class, his assignments often made me stop beside him involuntarily to take a few more looks. but perhaps because I couldn't treat him like a regular student. Wait, actually, without realizing it myself, I rarely praised him. During one class, a boy threw his brush into the water bucket and raised his hand. "Teacher, come look! I finished!" After correcting a small issue, I praised him. "That's huge progress, little Hong. I feel like you can get a higher score next time." He puffed out his chest and gave a firm, "Yeah." Ben and other classmates raised their hands one after another. I critiqued and provided emotional support as I went. I walked all the way to Leo's side. Holding his paintbrush, he looked up at me. I finished, too." I nodded. Meeting his eyes, which couldn't hide their anticipation, I said gently, "You drew very well. Leo is improving very fast, truly very talented." Light shattered in his eyes. Teacher, I will work even harder." There were faint, dark circles under the boy's eyes, and the usually tender skin on his hands was calloused. I thought about it and said gently, "Drawing is a gradual process. Don't rush it too much." His eyes curved. "It's okay. I like drawing." He turned his attention back to the drawing. I watched him quietly. I just felt everything was misplaced. If the current Leo loved the old me, I wouldn't have spent so many nights breaking down in pain, even jealous that Julian was liked by him. And if the current me were facing the old cold Leo, I wouldn't be this conflicted and tangled now. Every week when Elena picked Leo up, she would chat with me for a long time. But it was always strictly about Leo's art. I couldn't avoid answering. Only Sarah was getting more and more resentful. In the evening, using the excuse of celebrating Ben getting a 93 on a math quiz, she took Ben and me to a newly opened restaurant. Sarah's fork scraped back and forth on her steak, her face dark as water. "The Booth family stock is definitely crashing tomorrow. The Booth family stock is definitely crashing tomorrow." The steak was unrecognizable. I mourned the steak for a second and asked carefully, "Can I ask, why do you dislike Elena so much?" Ben kept a poker face and sighed like an old man. "Because my aunt likes you, Teacher Mark." The air froze in that moment. My brain short-circuited. Sarah threw down her fork and questioned Ben. "What nonsense are you spouting, kid?" I saw her neck heating up rapidly, spreading to her ears. I didn't know if it was from embarrassment. I stuttered to smooth things over. "It's okay, I can pretend I didn't hear it." Desperate, I found I was terribly nervous, too. My first reaction was to flee. I stood up. "I'm done eating. I'll go home first." I walked quickly out of the restaurant, caught by Sarah running up behind me, blocking my path. "Mark, you can't pretend you didn't hear." She stood there with increasingly red cheeks. Her voice was clear in the evening breeze. "I really do like you. I liked you back when you were with Elena." Her tone was tinged with emotion. "Even though you were totally love-brained before and annoyed me to death, I still inexplicably fell for you." I didn't know what to say, stunned beyond belief. Looking levelly at her shoulder, I murmured, "Thank you for liking me. I didn't expect it. I always thought you hated me." Sarah crossed her arms habitually. "Yeah, normal. You're slow on the uptake. Before, when I told you to look at someone else, you looked at me seriously and said, 'Okay.' I thought you understood my meaning." She brought up old scores and scoffed. "That night I waited all night for your call. I even ordered the flowers for our meeting the next day. In the end, nothing happened." I remembered that time. After Sarah told me to look at someone else, she adjusted her silk scarf and lifted her chin. Like a proud swan. So she meant for me to look at her. Really hard to understand. Why not just say it straight? Sarah cleared her throat, pulling me back from memory. She said with self-abandonment, "Although I already know the result, I'll ask anyway as a formality. Mark, want to date me?" My thoughts hadn't returned to the right track yet. I subconsciously refused. Sorry, I don't plan to consider these things for the time being. Sarah gave a calm, "Oh. No big deal, don't take it to heart. Let's go, I'll drive you home." I was somewhat surprised by her nonchalance. After getting home, I was still secretly marveling at Sarah's decisiveness to pick up and let go. Then a notification sound rang. It was a voice message from Ben. "Teacher Mark, my aunt seems to be losing it. She bought a huge pile of onions and is cooped up in the kitchen cutting them. Her eyes are red. Obviously crying, but claims it's the onion fumes. Women say one thing and mean another. Felt like Ben was more mature than her. At the same time, Sarah's message popped up. Do you really not like me at all? Okay, it's fine if you don't. Then can you, starting now, try looking at me? I still want to try to win you over." Every line revealed the woman's awkward immaturity. Scenes about Sarah from the past resurfaced in my mind. For example, when I was left at the club by Elena, Sarah, for some reason passing by, gave me a ride home with a cold face. There were many such incidents. I had recovered from the short-circuit shock earlier. Some emotions gradually became clear. I held the phone, slowly typing on the keyboard. "It's not that I don't like you at all." Taking a deep breath, I hit send. She replied instantly with a question mark. "Account hacked?" The scarce romantic atmosphere instantly dissipated. Her call followed immediately. I picked up. "Is what you just said true?" She spoke very fast. I gave a muffled, "Mark, can you say it yourself?" She dragged out the tone like she was acting spoiled. It was easier to say over the phone than in person. I leaned back on the sofa, gripped the phone tight, and whispered into the receiver, "Actually, I do like you a little bit." After a few seconds of silence, Sarah said, "I'm done for, can't sleep tonight. Want to come find you? Can I come find you?" "No." I was very decisive. Sarah. "Oh." After that, Sarah dressed glamorously every day, very eye-catching. Coming out of the studio after work, she handed me a bouquet of Lysianthus, chatting casually. "Noticed? The booth woman hasn't come to harass you lately." Holding the flowers, I tilted my head to look at her. "What did you do?" Sarah raised an eyebrow slightly. "Reminded her mom she should get married. Elena should be, right now." She calculated mentally before saying, "Forced into a blind date with the 11th guy." That was a very Sarah tactic. Actually, since that night, she hadn't mentioned dating again. Nor did she press me on when I would agree. Just passionately, but not urgently seeping her affection into my daily life. As if silently saying, "It's okay, you can take your time. I'm waiting for you to walk out of that last shadow. But don't forget, I'm liking you every day." Leo didn't stay in the art class for long. The cause of leaving was a fight with Ben. Leo suddenly tore up Ben's drawing, and when Ben tried to salvage it, Leo bit his arm. Ben buried his face in my chest, crying, his arm trembling with pain. I pressed my lips together. "Leo, come here and apologize." I had never used such a stern tone with him. He stared blankly at me. Mist rose in his eyes and he started crying too. "Dad? Leo didn't do anything wrong. He's a thief. He stole drawing, Dad, so Leo tore his drawing." Today's in-class theme was my dad. Ben sobbed and explained that he had forgotten what his dad looked like. I was the person closest to a dad around him. So he drew me, just like Leo did. Leo's hand at his side clenched into a small fist, his attitude stubborn. "Still can't draw him. Only I can draw him." He still thought he was right. Ben's wound needed immediate treatment. I didn't argue right or wrong with him anymore. I picked Ben up and walked toward the nurse's office. Leo probably had trauma about me leaving. Seeing me go, he instantly panicked, running his little legs to chase behind me, crying intermittently. "Dad! I apologize! Don't be mad! Don't! Don't go, okay?" He followed all the way to the nurse's office. With a face full of tear tracks, he apologized to Ben, then clumsily rolled up his sleeve and offered it. You bite me back. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have torn your drawing. I won't do it again. I'm sorry, Ben." I sighed and took him to an empty classroom. He cried loudly, not saying anything else, just helplessly calling me over and over. I wiped Leo's tears, only saying, "Leo, you really aren't suitable for learning art here. Our teacher-student relationship, father-son relationship, neither was pure enough. Staying together would only make things more twisted." He nodded, still hiccuping from crying, but his tone was calm. "Leo understands." Then later, "If I miss Dad, can I come see Dad?" He hurriedly waved his hands to add, "Won't come often, just once a month. No, once every 6 months to see Dad." His eyes trembled, as if worried his request was too excessive. I finally nodded. "Okay." He smiled, but it was still sad. Then lastly, Leo wants to hug Dad one more time. I pulled him into my arms. The boy lay on my shoulder, his voice soft, as if afraid to disturb this dream. "Hope Dad's future kids will be good, will listen. Most importantly, they must love Dad very, very much. Spring is bursting with vitality. Parting in this season, the difficulty of withdrawal is amplified. That day, Elena came to pick up Leo after a long absence. She let the driver take Leo to the car before speaking. The overseas branch is in a serious crisis, very hard to solve. I'm taking Leo to immigrate there. We won't be back for the next few years." Her lashes lowered, hiding all emotion. "Mark, these past years, I'm sorry. I've transferred all domestic properties, about 20-something places, to your name. The lawyer will contact you to sign the papers in a few days. Consider it compensation, don't refuse." I didn't have such high material desires, but having money for security is always good. After Elena left, Sarah became even more popular. Waiting for me to get off work at the studio entrance every day, she basically got asked for her number constantly. That day was a very ordinary day. I got off work early. Ben still had 20 minutes before class ended. Sarah parked at the entrance as usual, head down tapping seriously on her phone keyboard. You'd think she was handling some official business. At the same time, my phone kept buzzing. I unlocked it and clicked on the message pop-ups. The first was a news link. Booth Corp branch crisis worsens, situation bleak, bankruptcy imminent. Not trying to kick them while they're down, just stating facts, LOL. That's what happens with incompetent women. Oops, slipped and sent that. This is my ranking on the National Personal Assets list. Moved up 3 spots compared to last year. I feel like I deserve some praise. Suddenly, for no reason at all, I decided to date her. Without even thinking too much, I walked towards Sarah. She was still focused on texting me. I knocked on her half-lowered car window. "Excuse me, can I date you?" The woman didn't even look up, rejecting with practiced ease. "Sorry, Her voice cut off abruptly. Sarah suddenly looked up, a bit annoyed, thin lips pressed together. "Mark, don't joke about things like this." "I'm not joking." I looked at her seriously, slowly asking again. "Excuse me, can I date you?" She stared into my eyes. After a long while, finally believing my words, she pushed open the door, got out, and stepped forward to hug me. "Glad I waited," she whispered, adding, "Waited until the day your eyes could truly see me." When Ben came out, she couldn't wait to show off. "From now on, Teacher Mark is your uncle." Ben cast me a look of admiration. "Teacher Mark, you truly are a philanthropist." She laughed coldly. "Kid asking for a beating." Ben shrank into the corner. "Auntie, you have so many flaws. Teacher Mark being with you is charity work." Sarah gritted her teeth, saying she'd find a place to park and fix him. Ben threatened that if she dared hit him, he'd introduce me to his class's gym teacher. I rested my chin in my hand, smiling as I watched the two argue. At some moment, I turned to look out the window. The lush green scenery accompanied by the hot wind assaulted the senses. I suddenly realized that biting late winter had been gone for a long time.